Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Origin Stories. Thank everybody for joining us on a wonderful Saturday afternoon. I am excited about today's guest. And I want to thank everybody from both channels that have joined us. My name is Denver Steveo. I am here from the Denver Steveo channel. And our guest, Mat Pesch, who will be joining us in just a second, is joining us from the Queen Bee SP channel. As we know, Matt and Amy have been doing quite a bit of work, both on and off screen here, not just lately, but for years. So wanted to, while everybody, as everybody is joining in, if you are joining in from Denver Steveo, please swing over and check out Queen Bee SP. Make sure that you're subscribed to that channel and also like this program on that channel as well. And for those of you over at Queen Bee SP over on Amy and Matt's channel, please swing on over to @Denver Steveo. Come on over, like this show, and most definitely subscribe. You are all welcome, and we love the SPTV family. So a little bit about myself very quick. I am one of the never-ins. As the story goes, in this global world of ours, there are 7.6 billion never-ins, but only a few of us that have a YouTube channel. Well, that's not true. I guess every never-in that has a YouTube channel, whether they know they're a never-in or not, has a channel. But I got into this story like many. I think my acknowledgement of the story came from Leah Remini, Scientology in the Aftermath several years ago, but the Scientology story has kind of always been there with Tom Cruise yelling at Matt Lauer, or jumping on Oprah's couch. And as somebody who has always grown up being very, very against abuse, abuses towards people. I'm an animal lover, and as much of an activist there as I can be as well. It was just something that this story just kind of kept grabbing onto me over the years, and it kept finding me as well. Leah's show was over, and then all of a sudden there's a podcast, and then all of a sudden Aaron Smith Levin's channel starts popping up in my YouTube feeds, and it snowballed in my life to a point where it just made sense. It felt like a calling to stand behind our ex-Scientologists, our former Scientologist friends, as a megaphone to their voice. So that's what brought me here. And here we are. So, but with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. Let's bring out, and please, there's two things that I want from you in the chat, if you don't mind. One, as you go into the chat and say hi, please let us know where you're from as well. It would be huge for us to know where all of our viewers are popping in from today. I know that's something that Amy has loved to do, and it's something that I've always been curious of as well. So please throw that in there. And then as I introduce and as I bring out our guest, please throw in the chat all those applause emojis that you can. And let's put our hands together for the one, the only, the King Bee himself, Mat Pesch.
Oh, that's too much. Hello, everyone.
Too much? No. Great to have you here, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah, good to be here.
Hey, so we have got a gang and a half. Look at that. We're already flying high past the 100 viewer mark. People want to hear the story. So, before we dive in, how's the day been for you?
Yeah, it's going great. Yeah.
Wonderful. beautiful. It's a beautiful snowy, yes, I say snowy afternoon here in the nondescript Colorado mountain town where I bode from here. So I'm enjoying my first day of snow. So yay.
Wow. Yeah, it's in the 80s here. We were just watching people water ski.
Oh geez. Oh geez. The funny part is it snowed this morning, and in my front yard, it's already in the front side of the house, it's already all melted. In the back side of the house, there's still some snow. So it'll be gone by tomorrow. We'll get another batch at some point, but yeah, it'll be back up into the 70s here pretty quick. So, but wow, water skiing. Wow, I want to water ski. I haven't water skied.
Well, you can snow ski.
I can snow ski. I can't. No, I can't. No, I can't. So Matt, we're all here today, and I think part of the thing that I forgot to mention in my introduction here, we call this show Origin Stories for a particular reason. This is not a story about our guests' Scientology days. The Scientology. So a couple of things. The Scientology stories are stories that tend to come out in many a chat. But what doesn't tend to come out are those stories, the lead-ins. What got us into Scientology? What was life like before then? And since we're talking here about ex-Scientologists, there's of course that second part of the story. What's been going on after? So that's kind of where our focus will be today, just to let the full audience know if they're not familiar with this program. Also, don't forget, swing over to Denver Steveo and check out our first interview with Mitch Brisker. But yeah, that's really the what we target this story about. Plus, and I don't know if I'm starting trouble here. Rumor has it in the future there may be a Mat Pesch pen to paper, and we don't want to blow all of the good stuff by stealing it all here.
Right. Yeah, I've been working real hard on that book recently. That's for sure.
That's fantastic. I'm a fan of every. I mean, one, I'm a fan, but two, I can't wait to having read Mark's book and having read Amy's book, there's all these stories in there that there's always stories that you don't expect, and always parts of life where you, oh my God, you went through that. And just from the bits, the tales that you've told on other streams and in other venues, I can't wait to find out what I don't know about the Mat Pesch Scientology life. But we'll stay. We won't avoid it. We're never one to avoid the topics, but we'll really keep that focus today on kind of the other ends of it, right? Well, before and after Scientology. So that being said, how'd life start for Mat Pesch?
Well, I guess I was born on Long Island, New York,
okay,
on the South Shore, in a town called North Babylon, and it's about 3 miles from the Great South Bay. So we were always fishing. We were always going to the beach, the ocean, always playing sports. Typical middle-class Long Island situation. Nice. My dad, he worked in Queens for Con Edison. He was a troubleshooter, working from a truck, climbing poles, telephone poles, and doing all that kind of stuff. He never wanted to work in an office. My mom was from the Bronx, so she was kind of an enforcer in the house. She did all the discipline. My dad was left all that to my mom. And yeah, it's kind of how it went. My mom kind of passed on the way that she was raised in the Bronx. I'd be like 5 years old, going to school for the first time, and my mom's putting up her hand, wants me to punch her hand as hard as I can. And she's like, have me punch your hand. She goes, okay, if anybody tries to bully you, she's like getting me set up for kindergarten. If anybody tries to bully you, you need to hit them right in the middle of their face as hard as they can. I don't care what happens after that, how big they are, but you don't want to make yourself like somebody that the bullies want to go after. And that was kind of her, mentality. And she told me, I have my little Bullwinkle, lunch box there. And she's telling me, if I ever see a brother or sister in a fight and I don't jump in, no matter how many people there are, she tells me, don't come home.
Wow.
I'm like, oh shucks, like, am I like heading off to war here or what? Like, don't come home. I'm 5 years old, But that's kind of how the mentality was. And that's kind of a Long Island mentality a lot too. I tell you the truth, So that's kind of how things started up there.
So mom was definitely the what's the I'm putting up.
She was the muscle. Yeah,
she was the muscle. Yeah,
I mean,
there we go.
If we were making noise in the house and she took that wooden spoon and slapped it on the little nightstand next to her bed, that was like, that's the last warning, kids. Next time I get up, your ass is going to be on fire. So.
Wow. So you said you played a lot of sports growing up, or played sports growing up. Was there a favorite? Anything you?
Probably wrestling. I really like wrestling. It's I did everything though. Every sport I did: gymnastics and track and football and baseball and hockey. Anything I could play, I was playing. If it wasn't on an organized team, then it was just in the streets playing. But I liked wrestling. I wrestled for 6 years. I started off at 78 pounds. In 7th grade, I was a skinny little kid. And then next year I was 88 and 98. I didn't get until high school. I wasn't even over 100 pounds. I didn't wrestle over 100 pounds until 10th grade. So, and then I started growing and putting on weight and all that good stuff. But yeah, so I like wrestling.
Okay. I wrestled. I was not good, not at all. But and in the early years, because I was the opposite of you. I was the big guy. There were tournaments where I would go, and I was apparently a little bit bigger than I should have been, and I would walk off with a trophy after having like wrestled one match. There was one other guy. Okay, well, there we go. Here's our weight class championship for the week. So yeah, it was it was a great sport. I definitely know where you're coming from with the enjoyment there. What about studies? What about classes? How'd you do in school?
I did really good in school. I really took school seriously. I would always do my homework, and my mom would drill me. She would check me out on mathematics, and she had it so that I can go all the way up to, as a little kid, go up to 12 times 12 and just snap answer what it was, and all that kind of stuff that she did with me really helped me in school. And I graduated with high honors, and when I took the test for college, it was across the top, all the 2% of the country and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I did good in school. I like school.
Wow. I got to ask the same question for that. What was your favorite subject?
I like math because it only has one answer. Everybody has opinions on all this other stuff, but 2 + 2 is 4. There's no way you can kind of get cheated out of what you should get as a mark. I kind of like that.
Fair enough. Such a great, yeah, right. It's that simple. We all end. So school. So great in classes. Loved the sports. What else? Was there anything else in your in those years that kind of made kind of was? What else was going on during your your teen and high school years?
Okay, well, we'll check. I think something that should be said is, when I went to kindergarten, I had all this extra energy, and the kindergarten teacher was like, we need to like slow this kid down a little bit, So she told my mom, when he gets home from school, take a big book, some kind of novel or something like that, and read that to him for a while until he kind of settles down, and then let him go out and play. So my mom, she grabbed books from Jack London, which she knew I would be interested in, something like I could like be interested in as a little kid. We read Call of the Wild and White Fang and Seawolf, and I became a real fan of Jack London. I got a book that had all his short stories and essays, and it was like three inches thick. And I read that, and I kind of dreamed of being like Jack London. He was taking rafts down the Mississippi, and he was you know, looking for gold in the Yukon. And, you know, so I had that in mind. When I was 10 years old, I'm walking home from Little League, and I got my Little League uniform on and all that, playing baseball. And I see this hippie kind of guy. He's by the highway there in New York, and he's on the exit, and he's hitchhiking. And I said, "Hey, where you going?" Right? And he said, "Oh, I'm just going to travel. I'm just traveling the world, you know." And I said, "Oh," I said, "Wait for me." I said, "I got to run home. I got to change. I got a little bit of money. I got to grab it and stuff like that." I said, "Don't leave without me." I was real emphatic. "Don't leave without me. I'll be right back." I ran home as fast as I could. I changed. I got, you know, my stuff. I ran back to the highway, and he was gone. And I was like, "Oh man." But that was my mentality. I was like, I wanted to go check out the world. I wanted to get out of there, you know. And yeah, so that was where I was in my mind.
This sounds like foreshadowing to me. Excellent. So, okay. So you want to travel the world. Did you get the chance while you were growing up? I guess for me, and, you know, I think for a lot of us, getting out in the world means going on trips with our family. Did you guys ever get to do the summer trips, the out and about kind of, you know, getting away from home?
Yeah, my parents were really good about that kind of stuff. Every summer we went and rented a cabin in like New Hampshire or Vermont or Maine, and they also had a trailer. We would go, you know, pulling the trailer down to Florida, and on the weekends we were always going someplace. My mom was always setting up little trips and stuff. So yeah, we got out a lot. So I was lucky about that. I had a really good childhood with all of that.
Nice.
Yeah.
So okay. So we get further through your oh, I know. Did you ever I remember this from growing up. Did you have to take one of those crazy tests that the what is it, the school counselors always make you take, that tell you, oh, you would be a good burger flipper, or you would do this, that type of thing? Did you ever have to take those?
Yeah, I mean, he called me into. You had to go through, like, there was like 750 kids in my graduating class, so he had to try to get through everybody. So he didn't have a lot of time.
Sure.
So he calls me in and he shows me the test, and I got all these, you know, the great scores across the top and all that. And he said, "Well, you could do anything you want to do." He says, "What do you want to do? Are you going to go to college?" And I said, "No, I don't want to go to college. I just want to go travel around and kind of figure out what I want to do." And, you know, and that's what I started doing. Really, I started hitchhiking around. I hitchhiked all the way down to Florida, up to Quebec, and, you know, into Canada, and different colleges that my friends were at. And yeah, so my intention was just not to get locked down on anything, and just to travel and find out what the heck's going on. I mean, you grow up in this little bubble, and you know there's a big world out there, and I was looking for some kind of adventure.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, let me first say, do not hitchhike. This was a much different time, but so doing
it was
that,
legal. It was legal back then. And the truth is, I never had problems with anybody, and I almost never had a hitchhike more than 5 minutes. I mean, back in those days, people would hitchhike to college. They would hitchhike home from the army, things like that. Yeah, I literally almost never had a hitchhike more than 5 minutes. Even if I was traveling from all the way to Florida back up to New York, I would make it in 2 rides, and it would be like faster than I could drive myself.
Wowza. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that's you said you never had any issues with hitchhiking. Ever any cool experiences? Like you knew you wanted to go somewhere, you went there, and was just completely unexpected, just a complete wow, this is crazy?
You know, when I would hitchhike, I get out on that highway, and I would just feel so free. It's hard to explain. Like, I just felt like I was free. You know, it wasn't costing me much. I would go on long trips with, like, I would take a sleeping bag, put a loaf of bread, some peanut butter, some honey in the bag, $20, and I would go off for 2 weeks and come back with change. You know, I just felt the freedom. I remember I was hitchhiking to a girlfriend's place that she was going to college in Connecticut. I got out on the freeway next to my house. I got 3 rides in a row, all bang, bang, bang from Mercedes, and they dropped me off at the door to her dorm. So it was kind of like, that was pretty amazing. Another time, a friend of mine had to go back to the Air Force Base down in Pensacola, Florida. And he asked me if I would mind doing a trip down with him from New York, and then I could hitchhike back. And I said, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll do that. So we went down there, and I got out on the road the next morning to hitchhike. And I decided to go see a friend that had moved down there to Orlando recently. And so I thought, I didn't have the guy's phone number because I didn't have a phone at my apartment at that time, and he didn't have one in his, and it was before cell phones and all that. So, but I had his address, and I figured, I don't know how big Orlando is, but I had the concept that I could get there and ask around and somehow find his address. So I get out on the road in the morning, and I'm sitting on the wood railing, and somebody had carved into it that they had hitchhiked there for 12 hours and didn't get a ride. And I'm thinking, I'm sure having his knife out didn't particularly help him, but he probably must have been really ugly or something. How do you hitchhike for 12 hours and not get a ride? But anyway, I got a ride right away. The guy took me across the top of Florida. And then when he was going to let me out, he gets on the CB on his little radio, and he said, yes, is anybody heading down to Orlando? I got a guy here, could use a ride. So somebody responds, they're a mile back. And so he pulls over. I get into the car. It's 2 business guys in a big Cadillac. Other than saying hello, we didn't say anything. They were talking business in the front seat, and I'm just quietly sitting in the back. At some point, he says, okay, this is basically Orlando. We're heading down to Miami. So, so I jump out of the car, and I think, all right, I'll go get something to drink, and then I'll figure out how to find my friend. And I see like a little 7-Eleven or something a few hundred yards away. So I walk over to that, and as I walk in the door, there's my friend Billy at the counter buying a drink. So those are the kind of things were happening. I was just like, I didn't know why. I still don't know why, but there was a lot of stuff like that happening to me. And I just felt I was always the luckiest guy in the world. That's how I was, looked at it. And my mom would say, yeah, God takes care of the drunks and the fools, So I thought, okay, good. I can probably qualify both ways.
Oh, fun. I'm a drunk and a fool. I'll take it. That's wow. Yeah. And you're right. You don't hear those stories these days. It's obviously, I mean, hitchhiking, but yeah, it's you definitely had some I don't know, some sort of intervention, whether it be divine intervention or what, something there. So as I'm tracking the story, Mom was reading Jack London books about exploring the world. That takes hold inside of you. You start to explore the world, even at a younger age. Now, as we're doing this, I guess the question is to get the full time frame. We did the high school. We went through high school. Is this still during? I mean, friend in the military. So how old were you at this point?
At which point? Where I hitchhiked?
Well, I guess by the tail end, by
it's
where
like
you're bumping
high school.
Okay,
like high school, right at the year after high school, right in that kind of zone, right there.
Okay,
where I was doing a lot of the hitchhiking. Yeah.
Okay, so you graduate from high school. You're in doing a bunch of that the hitchhiking thing.
Yeah, I had a clam boat. So
whoa! Stop there. What you had a clam boat at right out of high school?
Before I even got out of high school.
Okay.
While I was in high school, when I had time, like in the summertime and things like that, I had a job working at a boat station, and I would work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I would part of the boat station was pumping gas for the boats that would come in. So there were clam diggers that would come in to get gasoline, and I would ask them. I said, "Well, how much did you make today?" And they would say, I made $80 or I made $120. And I'm like, holy shit. Like minimum wage was less than $2.
Right.
And these guys were coming in with all kinds of money. So I thought, all right, I'm going to save my money and buy a clam boat. So I did. I saved my money. I got a clam boat. And, I was making more money in a day than my friends can make at a regular job in a week. But the funny thing is, from my mom's viewpoint, she thought like I was like some kind of bum because I wasn't working every day. If I would have worked 9 to 5, at the gas station or 7-Eleven, she would have thought, I was just a hardworking kid. But because I had all this extra money and all this extra time, she was like, this kid's a bum, man. It was just ironic.
Wow. So, okay. So I want some clam boat stories. Tell us about,
Clam boat. I'll tell you a clam boat story.
yeah.
I mean, my friends who were also clam diggers, a lot of times we'd go out to like one of the islands out in the middle of the bay, like nobody around. It's a small island. And we would, make a campfire and bring some food and get drunk out there and tell bullshit stories. And, we get into discussions like, could that, my friend beat me in a fight if he kicked me between the legs, but I, use my wrestling or something like that. We just dumb crap that you would do as teenagers. So we were having this, fight, and he wound up, I threw him on the ground and I pinned him, and he got pissed and he bit me in the neck. Right. So I go home. I'm always trying to cover up whatever marks on my face from fighting and bull crap like that. And I'm sitting at the dinner table because I don't want my mom to bring questions up about this and stuff. And she's like, she sees this big purple bite mark on my neck, right? And she says, "Oh my God." She goes, "Where do you go to meet women? The Amazon?"
Oh, fun. So that just deserves a good laugh.
I mean, there was, so you can do illegal clamming, which means that you go into the clam beds. And if you do illegal clamming and you go into the clam beds, the clams are so thick that, you have these, you either use tongs, like a big, like a hole, post hole digger with like 14, 15, 16 foot wood poles that are tied to these big metal cages with like metal fingers on them. And you dig into the ground and you shake it and the sand and the mud comes out and then you have the clams. Or you can get a rake, which is like this big curved rake thing with teeth on it. And you kind of drag that with a long pole, usually about, 15, 20 feet long. And you drag that through the sand and mud and you get the clams. Well, if you go into the clam bed itself, like the illegal area where they have it all seated and bedded, you can't hardly get your tong or rakes into the ground. I mean, it's like a brick wall of perfect clams.
Okay.
And the summer of the Olympics, 76, up in Montreal, I was hanging out with my friend and two girls, and we were talking, what are we going to do for the summer? Do something exciting. And the idea came, well, hitchhike the four of us up to Montreal and see the Olympics. But they didn't have any money. I had money. So they're like, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do. So I'd say, okay, listen, let's go out and we'll go do illegal clamming for a couple hours, and it'll make enough money for all of us to take a vacation for the summer, right? So the idea was that the four of us are on the boat, and it's at night, which is extra worse because you're not supposed to clam at night. If we get caught, I'm going to lose my boat, my gear, and I'm going to get a big penalty for it, right? Like a major penalty for it.
Right.
But anyway, we're going to do this. And so first, myself and another person, we get dropped into the water. They go off on the boat. We fill up a big sack of clams. They come back. We get back up on the boat. We drop them off. And then the conservation boat comes up on us. And we don't have any clamming equipment on the boat because the only equipment we have is in the water with the other two people. And so they see the clams are wet. They see we're wet. They know somebody's pulling clams out of the place, right? Close to the shore where the spot was. Anyway, when they went in, it was a guy and a girl. My friends were in the water together. When they saw the conservation boat, they just started kissing, had dropped everything. And so that they couldn't find any of the equipment there. We came back the next day. We picked up their clams, that rake, and we sold it. So we didn't get caught. There was no way they could actually, say that they knew I was clamming because they didn't see me clamming. I had no clamming gear. But we sold that and it paid for our trip. And the four of us hitchhiked up to Montreal and saw the Olympics. So yeah, it was a great trip.
Wow.
That was another clamming story.
That's a great clamming story. So, okay. So, so what it sounds like to me is it sounds like basic teenage hijinks, for lack of a better term, but I never clammed during my high school years. So apparently it's not something you get to do in the Midwest. So I'll take it. But no, it's wow, that's fun. And I'm seeing a lot in the chat, people going, hey, we did that. I did clam. Muscle building, all this. So so it's apparently it's just something
on Long Island. A lot of people do clamming on Long Island, and it was at one point there was thousands of clam boats off Long Island.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you have the clam boat. You obviously don't have a clam boat now. How did that? Well, actually, before we go there, now you were doing all this in high school. So you were living at home the entire time, or did you end up moving out at some point?
I left home. I mean, I left shortly right at the end of high school, just for maybe a month or so. I was living at a friend's house, and then I came back. I lived at my house with the parents for about a year, and then myself and my friend got an apartment. The way we did that back in those days, if you wanted to get an apartment, you went to a little middleman place that would, you would tell them it was a business, and you would say, hey, I'm looking to rent an apartment. They'd say, okay, what area, what price range? So we said, we said about within like 10 miles of my parents' house and the cheapest possible. So they were like, okay, cheap as possible.
Understood.
You can imagine the block they gave me. We rented the second story of this house, and it was right next to a funeral home on one side, and like 2 houses down was a house of prostitution. And everybody on the street except myself and my friend, they did something for money that was not legal. They either sold guns, drugs, the bodies, something. It was the place was pretty hardcore street. I tell you, the guy downstairs, if somebody drove down the street, he was moving the curtain to see if it was the police or whatever, because he was wanted by the police. And if he needed milk or a newspaper or something, I would get it for him down the street, because he wouldn't leave the house. He didn't want to get picked up. So that was the kind of scene it was, So, but it worked,
Absolutely. So, and how long did I guess I'm inadvertently foreshadowing. How long were you in that place?
I was in there for at least a year. I mean, after a few months, my friend, he went back to college. He decided he was going to return to college, and he became like a professor at college. And,
oh, wow.
he did really well in life. But I was there. Now I had to pay the whole rent myself, So I'm working my little butt off, and I'm paying the rent and just, bare necessities after that. So that's kind of what was leading up to when I wound up joining the Sea Org. I was living in that apartment, working, and wasn't really getting ahead, and that whole thing. And it was winter time. There was all kinds of snow outside.
Yeah.
And there was, the Sea Org out in California in the sunny palm trees. So that's kind of how it led up to that. Before
we go to that point, so you're living in the, so your roommate leaves, you're paying for the whole thing yourself. Is this all clam boat money? Is that
no? At that time, I was just doing odd and end jobs. I would work for a few weeks, make money, and then go hitchhike someplace. I'd go hitchhike to somebody college and go visit them and stuff. So I was always just like kind of popping in and popping out. If I had enough money to go travel, I was gone. I was traveling. Then I'd come back. I'd go pick up some work. It was kind of like that kind of situation. Sure. It was funny. The first night I was in that apartment, I was upstairs, and I get woken up. There's a police officer standing over me. To give you an idea of the street, right? I mean, the guy doesn't knock on the door. He's like not taking any chances. He comes straight into the apartment. He's standing over my bed. And I'm like, what's happening, right? And he said, well, a girl on the street got raped last night, and, I'm trying to find them. And the neighbor said that you were new to the area and that you look like you might fit the description. He goes, but I know it wasn't you. And I said, well, how do you know it wasn't me? He said, because her mother got a hold of him with a baseball bat, and you're not marked up. So I'm like, oh, hello, new neighborhood, so I never left that door unlocked again. I can tell you that.
No, this is, wow.
It was a badass street, I'm telling you.
Wow. And the police just standing right above you there. Well, okay. No. Yeah, that's a neighborhood. That is a neighborhood. Okay. So, so how did you start to, so I'm kind of reading the cues here, right? I'm seeing things as you've been telling them. And, sorry, I didn't mean to blank out there. How did you lead, what led, so that's sounded like it was
Scientology?
Sounding like it started leading you into Scientology. How did before Sea Org, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, or maybe I'm missing a cue here. Yeah, what interested you? How'd you find out about Scientology in the first place?
All right. Check this out. Back in those days, I mean, I don't think most people even ever heard of the word Scientology. You know, I had never heard of Scientology. I never heard of Dianetics or any of that stuff. But in 1976, on the bicentennial 4th of July, myself and a bunch of friends headed out to the end of Long Island to do a little camping and see a big fireworks display that was going to be there. So we were, just drinking beer, and we were smoking a little pot of weed or whatever they call it these days, and throwing a football around and just kind of relaxing. And one of my friends, Jack, he comes over and he says, "Hey, I just bought these little pieces of paper from somebody that has, some kind of drug on them or whatever, right?" And he starts asking my friends, "Anybody want one?" And everybody's going, no, none of my friends did any kind of drugs like that. And but I said, okay, I said, "Give me one of those, I'll try it." Right. So I took one. He took one. After about 20 minutes, I didn't feel anything. He didn't feel anything. So then I started teasing him. I said, "Jack, you just paid this guy for freaking paper, right?" So then he had some more. We ate some more of it, and we didn't think anything of it. We didn't feel anything. We went down to watch the fireworks, and it was the beach was so crowded that you could hardly walk through it. There was people with blankets and chairs and sitting all over the place. And we were sitting there, we're looking up in the sky, and we're watching the firework display. And after 45 minutes or something like that, the display is coming to an end. And I look around, and there's nobody sitting within a circle of like 50 feet from us, like just this big open circle made in the middle of all these people that nobody is in. And I'm like, what the heck, right? It didn't make any sense, right? But we just kind of commented on it to each other. And we got up to go walk towards the main town off the beach. And as I was walking, I felt like I was observing everything, like I was totally there, and everything was like I was very aware of everything, and I was very aware of everybody. I kind of felt like I had landed on the planet for the first time, because I didn't have any preconceived ideas about anything. It was really strange. And so I walk up to the middle of the town, and I'm standing on the corner. I just look normal. I'm not anything weird. Nobody will walk past me. They'll change direction. They'll cross the street. I'm not saying anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm just standing there, and these people can't be in my space. And I'm like, what is going on? And I said to my friend Jack, "Jack, I feel like I'm as big as a mountain. Like I've just felt huge." And I said, and I feel like, I was thinking, I feel like if I wanted to go do something, see somebody that was like 100 miles away, I would just go there, just without any, restrictions on it. I said, and then I thought to myself, well, there be one restriction. I'd have to think of, sheltering and feeding my body and stuff. And that was the first time I had ever thought of myself as being other than my body like that. It was unique. So I'm like, whoa, what's happening here, right? So we decided we're going to go back to the campground. So I put my thumb out to hitchhike, and this guy about our age starts pulling over. And as he starts pulling over, I could feel him freaking out, because I was like able to like perceive him so strongly, kind of, that he couldn't have it. He started freaking out. I said, I got to turn around. I got to go back. And he swung the car around. So me and Jack looked at each other and we're like, wow, what the heck is going on, right? So then we started walking towards the campground, which was still like 4 miles away or something. And there was a car coming behind us, and it was like one of these country roads parallel to the beach. And I put my thumb out, and this car pulls over. It's got 3 girls in it. And I'm trying to, she pulls over, and I'm trying to approach the car as easy as possible, and trying to get into the space and open that car. We get in the car, and this girl she puts the pedal to the metal. She starts driving like a maniac down this road. And I'm like, I pulled the car over so we can get out, because I understood what was going on. She was trying to get out of the space by driving out of the space. You understand? She could not be in our space. She could not have herself perceived that strongly. That's the only way I could describe it. So we get out of the car. We walk back to the campground. We lay down on a sand dune, just fell asleep right away. And I'm thinking, am I going to feel like this in the morning, or is things going to go back to normal? And yeah, they went back to normal. So then about a week later, I'm thinking, what the hell was that? I would like to just experience that one more time and see if I could check that out and understand it a little more. So I went over to Jack's house, and Jack, I knew him since we were little tiny kids. He's very athletic, very smart, very happy kind of guy. I knock on his door, and he's crying, but he's not just crying. He's like crying so he can't breathe, crying. And I said, Jack, what's happening? And he's trying to get it. He can't say it, right? And then finally he gets it together enough to say everything. And I'm like, holy shit. And I found out what happened was he had gone into New York City by himself, taken that drug, went around perceiving the whole thing and looking at it for the first time. And it completely overwhelmed him. And he didn't want to be part of life. He didn't want to work. He didn't want to play. He didn't want nothing. And I was like, oh, I could duplicate, understand what he had experienced and what he was feeling and why, but there was no way I was going to go into agreement with that. There was also no way I was going to do that drug again. But
right.
But yeah, that's what was happening. So then I went off, and I was doing other things, and because I didn't know what I could do to help Jack. I really didn't have a solution there, answer for him. And one day I'm up in my apartment. I got a bunch of the guys over drinking beer, playing poker, that kind of thing, and knock on the door. It's Jack, and his hair is all trimmed nice, and he's got nice clothes on, and he's got a decent car out front, and he's on his way to work. And I'm like, and he looks good. And I'm like, holy smokes. I mean, what happened? I think maybe he found Jesus or something, which is fantastic. Whatever has helped this kid is great, So I said, what have you been doing, Jack? And he said, Scientology. And I said, never heard of it. And he said, well, here's a book. It's called Dianetics. Give me $2. I'll give you the book, and I'll stop by sometime. So I threw him the $2, he threw me the book. I tried to read this thing. If anybody ever tried to read Dianetics, don't waste your time. It's like 1,000 pages of muckety muck mook. It goes around in circle. But I kind of got the concept of it, and the concept of it seemed, all right, there's maybe something to the kind of basic concept of it. But the book itself is just like, throw it away. I mean, the truth is, now that I know, I tell you, I could train somebody to give a Dianetic session to someone in 2 hours if they knew nothing about the subject. There's only a few questions that you run kind of repetitively around in a circle. It doesn't have to be all complex like that stupid book. But anyway, so he said, basically what had happened was he had gone to the beach. He was crying, sitting there crying. Some lady came up who was a Scientologist and talked to him and basically gave him some hope that something was worth living for. And that's really what propped him up. And so he gone down to this Scientology mission, which was just literally the next block over from where I was. And it was this little tiny house. And he wanted me to go down there and check the place out. I was like, no, it's cool. I mean, that's for people. That's a health place. I don't need help. That was my view. I don't need help. But if it's helping you, that's real good. So after a few weeks of him persisting, I said, okay, all right, I'll go down there and just check it out. So I went in there and I took that 200 question personality test that you do. And the head guy, he was, supposed to be some bigwig or something. But he gave me the creeps, to tell you the truth. He just gave me the creeps. And he wanted, after I fill out the test, I'm supposed to go with him upstairs to get the results. And I have to walk through this room because I was in a little lobby thing at the house, and I'm walking through a room, and there's somebody in there with a meter with cans tied to it, and there's two other people staring at each other, and I'm like, this place is freaking weird, right? And I'm thinking, if this guy does the slightest thing when I go upstairs, I'm gonna just knock him on his butt and get the frig out of here. So we sit down, and this guy says, shows me, I think there's 10 different traits, and he says, yeah, your traits you're doing good. The test looks good, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to do a basic communications course? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do anything. I said, I'm not really interested in Scientology. I said, I just came here to appease my friend, Jack. And, otherwise I'm out of here. And I was out of here. Me and this guy didn't hit it off at all. But then I was willing to, in the follow-up weeks, to look at some of their books, and I would read them at my own apartment. And then some of the stuff was kind of interesting. And it had to do, that you're different than your body is different from you, this kind of stuff, which, is a concept that religions have had forever. But it was, but I was like, okay, so it seemed like there could be something interesting here. So I went down and I did the communications course. It was $50. And so I'm going to do the communications course. It's 2.5 hours in the evenings. And they had a 15-minute break in between. So on a 15-minute break, I'm running next door to the bar where my friends were. I'm having a beer and getting the update on the football scores. And then I run back and get back on course. Well, it took them a little while to figure out what I was doing. And then they just got freaking out. Like, you can't be drinking while you're on study, blah, blah, blah. They said, you got to go for a week, take no drugs. The only drugs I did was I drank and I did pot, occasional joint or whatever. And I didn't consider that alcohol was a drug. I didn't think they were talking about alcohol when they said, don't do any drugs for a week and come back. So I come back and I said, okay, I went the week. And they go, without drinking? I said, I didn't know you weren't drinking, So they said, no drugs, no drinking, no pot, no nothing. Nothing for 2 weeks and come back. So then I did that. I didn't do any drugs, no drinking, nothing. I came back after 2 weeks. And then it was a Sea Org member that was on a recruit tour that happened to stop in. And she was a beautiful girl with red hair, and she was supposed to be clear. She had the clear bracelet on and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, that's kind of how, and she had a slideshow, and the slideshow was people doing construction renovations back in Los Angeles and, the sunny Los Angeles and stuff. So here I was in frozen Long Island, work my butt off just to pay the rent and eat and that kind of stuff. And so I was kind of like drawn in that direction a bit there. And then I just say it, in Scientology, everything has a price to it. And the basic stuff was like $50 for a course, a little introductory course. But if you really want to, they had this chart up that would be like, it would be work your way up all these steps. You could become OT, and these OTs are supposed to be able to go exterior from their bodies with full perception. They're supposed to be able to be cause over matter, energy, space, and time. I mean, super power kind of stuff, that these guys were promising. And like, who wouldn't be interested in that if you thought it could happen,
Sure.
But it was very expensive. You'd have to have as much money as a nice house to actually go up those levels. And what I found out was that if you join the Sea Org, you're supposed to get your ordering and all that kind of stuff in your room and your board, and all that is supposed to be given to you in exchange for you working on doing renovation and construction. And I was interested in learning renovation and construction. And I was interested in being part of a group that was supposed to be, a group of OTs and all these, sound like some kind of like pretty badass group, So I was like, okay, I said, where is this girl that's got the, because I had gone in the next day to have my little appointment to meet her, right? Just thinking I couldn't join it, but I knew I didn't qualify, but I was going to go check this girl out because I was kind of curious to talk to somebody who was supposed to be clear with this perfect mind and all this stuff.
You were interested in the hot redhead.
Yeah, I was interested in that too, but she was married, but she was more interested in me.
Okay.
But what happened was I go into the lobby and there's a guy that was new and he's signing something. I said, what are you signing? He said, I'm signing the Sea Org contract. I said, how can you be signing the Sea Org contract? And he said, I said, you're new like me. And he said, yeah, anybody can join the Sea Org. So I said, oh, if anybody can join it, I'm going to join it. Where's that girl? And he goes, she's upstairs. I go upstairs and I said, hey, I want to join the Sea Org. And she thought I was kidding, And I said, no, I want to join the Sea Org. So she said, well, if you're for real, she goes, come back with a plane ticket. And I said, all right. So a couple hours later, I came back with a plane ticket to Los Angeles. And she said, well, what would you need to go? You know, what do you need to do? And I said, well, I just bought a used car yesterday. I need to sell that. I need to bring, you know, my keys back to the job and quit that. And I need to, I'll leave the apartment and leave the $200 down payment and all that stuff, but I need to at least clean it out and stuff like that. I need to say goodbye to a couple of people. And otherwise I'm on the plane tomorrow evening. And she called Los Angeles and said, hey, you need to pick this guy up tomorrow evening. So I did all that. I stopped at my parents' house before leaving. They had been away camping. I stopped at the house and I was really on the way to the airport. And we just caught each other at the last minute. And they saw me with the bag and they were like, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to California to work with Scientology. And they had never heard of Scientology either, but right away, it's like the Moonies or some kind of crazy cult thing. And, you know, I'm going off and they were really upset. And, but I said, hey, you know, I'll call you from there. I'll send you pictures and keep you, you know, up to date on what's going on. So I caught the plane to Los Angeles. I get there, just this part of the story because it's kind of funny.
Sure.
I get to Los Angeles. It's at night, middle of the night. And I'm like, okay, where's this guy that's supposed to pick me up? You know, somebody's supposed to pick me up. I'm joining this group of OTs, the super duper group. And as I'm in the phone booth and I'm going through the yellow pages, like 10 different Scientology places listed. I'm like, oh, goody. I have to call them all to figure out where the hell I'm supposed to go. This guy walks up. He looks like he's homeless. His hair is ragged and kind of greasy and laying off the side. Looks like he just woke up, which I'm sure he did. And he's got a brown jacket on and it's got missing buttons and he's got to pull the cross to keep it closed. And he asks, are you Mat Pesch? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy's here to pick me up. And we go to his car and he's got the door tied off with a rope. I'm like, holy shit, right? So we drive to the complex, the Scientology Big Blue building, and it had only been purchased, you know, a few months earlier or something. And they still had a big fence around it with barbed wire across the top. And at the gate was like a rent-a-cop guy with a German Shepherd. And I look at this place and it looks like an insane asylum. You know, it looks bad. And the gate, the dog, the guard, what am I into, right? This guy with the tied off door. So anyway, I go in there and they say, okay, you're going to get a temporary place to sleep tonight with the more veteran Sea Org members in their dorm. And then tomorrow you'll be moved in with the new guys, right? I'm like, oh yeah, sure. So go up to the 6th floor of the main building. I walk in the room. There's like 10 guys sleeping in there. The bed they show me is like some rusted metal friggin' bed with a nasty mattress and sheet on it. And the place smells like a locker room. And I'm upset at this point. I'm like ready to tear the place up. And I put that window all the way up to the cold LA air. And I got everybody's attention now. And I said, this place stinks, right? And nobody said a thing. And I went over to the bed and I'm thinking, should I leave tonight and hitchhike the West Coast or should I wait till the morning to get the hell out of this place, right? And I thought, I'm going to get a couple hours sleep and then I'll leave. So I laid a blanket down where I laid on half of my blanket and I pulled the other half over me so I didn't have to touch nothing. That's how I felt about that friggin' bed. And in the morning, as the sun was starting to come up, I went down the fire escape on the opposite side of where that guard was. I threw my suitcase over. I used the wall to jump over that fence, and I headed down to this little diner called Norm's. I was going to go get some breakfast. And I go in there, and as I'm ordering breakfast, some guy comes in, and he's got the fake military-looking uniform right. that the recruiters would wear, right? I didn't know at the time the difference between all that kind of stuff, but he was a recruiter himself. He had the same uniform on as Pat did, the redheaded chick, who, by the way, wanted me to take her out partying that night to the bars and all that stuff when I'm supposed to leave the next day. And she was persistent, and she was married, and I told her, you know, I didn't want to start off on the wrong foot in that place. So I said, no. But anyways, so this guy, he sits down and I'm like, what is going on in this place? You know, and I start talking to him and he realizes what's happening. And he says, okay, listen, let me take you back there, show you some of the areas that we already fixed up and, and show you where the guys are working and stuff. So I said, all right, show me. So we go back there, we walk in there and he shows me where the guys are working. And some guys are sitting on a paint bucket and they're rolling some cigarettes. And I said, oh, you guys smoke pot here? I said, I got trouble for that back in New York. And they're like, no, 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 no. We're rolling cigarettes. And I'm like, rolling cigarettes? The only time I ever seen anybody roll cigarettes was at a class trip to some insane asylum, But anyway, that's what they were doing. They were rolling cigarettes, and I kind of see what they're doing, and I'm thinking, all right. So I kind of agree that I'll give the place a chance, and that's kind of how my foot got in the door in that joint.
And there it is.
Yeah.
So to recap, you had an acid trip.
It wasn't even acid. I don't know what it was. I mean, we didn't hallucinate. It just like, I know with acid, I didn't know that at the time, but since I realized, I've heard or learned or whatever, that when somebody takes like acid or LSD or something like that, that it actually makes them hallucinate, and they usually have trouble going to sleep for hours afterwards and all this kind of stuff. We had no hallucinations, and we had no trouble falling asleep. So I don't know I really don't know what they had put on that paper.
So
today, I don't know.
So no hallucinations, but you had the kind of the personal space bubble, people feeling the bubble, didn't want to get involved in.
Yeah. It was some kind of,
wow.
I don't know, like some kind of super awareness thing happened.
Yeah. And then obviously your friend kind of did it to the extreme by going to New York City and experiencing.
Yeah, it was one thing to be in a happy environment with some people there, and you could kind of feel them.
Right.
I mean, you could like almost perceive for real, like how they emotionally were feeling, kind of thing. Wow. It was that intense.
Sure.
And so when he went into the city by himself, he just got completely overwhelmed by it.
Absolutely. And then so you went in. So how long, I guess maybe I missed, how long from when you first walked into that Scientology mission to when you ran over to Pat the redhead and said, I want to sign up for the Sea Org? Well,
I would say maybe 4 months.
Oh, okay. So you spent some time in there. It wasn't like an immediate change of mindset there. You obviously got into it, and that makes sense. It obviously seems like from your part of the experience that there was kind of that slow build in interest, that because obviously when they said no drugs,
right,
you were in enough to be okay. I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to take it. So there was obviously it wasn't.
Yeah, I bought into it enough that I was willing to,
and
I was getting ready to just starting the next little course they had, so I was like, I was getting my feet more and more into the door, and it was kind of the thing I did on, as a little side hobby. I wasn't like super like into it at that point, but I was experimenting on it, checking it out.
Sure. So, and then this whole time you are Mr. Mat Pesch. And we didn't talk about this, but somewhere in the next part of your journey from once you entered Scientology to when you leave Scientology, the name that people know you by changes.
Yeah.
You want to tell us that story quick?
Okay, I'll tell you that quick. Basically, to take it from where I was, the new guys were all working on renovating one of the buildings. It was called the American St. Hill Organization, and we're all working like we'd work for 20 hours and get 3 or 4 hours sleep, kind of thing. And we weren't getting any study. What new guys are supposed to get 5 hours study, but I didn't know any of that stuff. To me, I didn't even know if there was any study going to be happening. I really was just going with the flow. I didn't know what was going on. But whatever was being asked me, I was doing it, which was mainly just, mudding and sanding these walls and preparing them for painting. And so I'm there standing in the hallway doing that for a few days. And I hear the two guys that are running the job were standing behind me one day, and they're talking about how are we going to get all the floors, these old hospital floors, stripped and waxed. And I turned around and I said, hey, I can do that. And they were like kind of surprised. Well, how would you do that? And I told them what materials I would need. And, I knew how to do it because I had done that before for a hospital back in New York. And they were like, okay, you're in charge of the floors. So
Sure.
I worked my butt off. I got all those floors stripped and waxed. It's a 4-story building and old hospital building. And, about 1 hour before they were going to move the whole place in, I finished up the last floor and, it was a success. So then I'm told, okay, that was really good. We're going to send you on a mission. Well, I don't know what a mission is. In Scientology, a mission is like a special project that you get what has specific steps and something that you're supposed to accomplish that's, named and, it's run by a person that's called the mission operator. Anyway, I don't know what a mission is. I'm thinking Mission Impossible. I'm thinking maybe they're having trouble with somebody. They want me to do something. My mind was like into all kinds of things, right? So I said, yeah, go up to this room, blah, 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 in the building. So I head over there and the sign says, flag mission firing. And I walk in, the woman that's in charge of getting everybody ready to be fired on that mission. I said, what's flag? And she looks at me like, oh no. Because I don't know if I don't know what flag is, which is like the main thing in Scientology, the main building there in Florida that, they consider it their Mecca in Scientology.
Right.
If I don't know what that is, it would be like walking into a Catholic church and say, what's a pope? It's like, she looks at me, knows I'm not a Scientologist, and she's like, So she puts me full-time with a supervisor to try to make a Scientologist out of me. I got to do some courses, and they do one-on-one, and I get through them fast, and they send me on this mission. What I'm supposed to be is a purchasing agent. I'm supposed to do all the pricing and stuff for the next building, the project they're doing, which is the Advanced Organization in Los Angeles. And I'm going to be the 7th on this mission. I'm just supposed to be, they give me a list of construction materials. I'm supposed to call and get 3 prices on each one, and then write a whole submission on why I should buy that quantity of that paint, based on the wall square footage. And they gave me a desk with a typewriter. I never typed before. I really thought they had me confused with somebody. I walked in there and they said, here's your desk, here's your phone. I'm like, you're this purchasing agent. I'm like, you got me confused. I said, like, I did purchasing. I drove a truck, to pick up materials for a tile company. I'm not a purchasing agent. But I said, no, it's no confusion. Here's your desk, blah, blah, blah. So we were getting, the schedule was 30 hours work, 3 hours sleep per day. And that 3 hours is broken down to 1 hour intervals on a pillow that was in the middle of the office that we would all share. By the clock, you're down for your 1 hour. That hour's up, you're off that pillow, back on your job. The other person swings over and gets on that pillow. I mean, when you hit that pillow, you were sleeping, believe me. But it was ridiculous. The girl that was in charge, she was about 30 years old, and she would fall asleep on her typewriter. And then when somebody called to want to speak to her, we'd have to get underneath her arms and start walking her body around. She would have the keys of the typewriter imprinted in her face, literally, literally. And, we try to get her awake enough. And then she eventually was like, she was done. The other girl that was supposed to be doing what job I did was supposed to be 2 of us. She said, I'm going to the bathroom. And then we never saw her again. And then pretty soon I'm the only one in the office. Everybody else is gone, man. So I had to finish that mission up, the office part of it by myself. Anyway, I did pull it off. Then they wanted me they were going to form this organization up that would do renovations for the rest of the building and stuff. And instead of having missions, they were going to actually make a posted organization. They wanted me to be the person over the logistic treasury kind of function. And I said, hey, listen, guys. Oh, the other part of it was before I had left Long Island, I didn't care what the pay was, whatever. But I had asked Pat, I said, hey, what do they pay you guys anyway? And she said, oh, we usually get paid around 60 to 80 bucks a week, which would have been, your minimum wage kind of thing. Well, when I get there and I'm working my first week or so, I go, they have the Sea Org member come in, and all those new guys are there. And this guy sets this little table down in a box with all the envelopes of the pay envelopes and stuff. And he starts calling people's name and handing out these envelopes, and they open it up, and they're all coming out with 2 single dollar bills. They're getting paid $2. Pay was 16, but they were on half pay, which was 8. And then the new guys were like quarter pay or something. So it was $2, right? So I'm like, what this chick lied to me about the pay. I didn't really care about the $2. But I was upset that I was lied to, right?
Sure.
So when I went up after the guy handed out the money, he had never called my name, but I had worked a few days, right? So in the real world, if you work and you don't get paid, that's a big deal.
Mhm.
So I go up there, and this guy, we're all the new guys, and he's like, thinks he's way above everybody. And I walk up and I say, hey, you didn't call my name. He doesn't even have the respect to look up. He's just like, goes, write a CSW, which means completed staff work. It's like some kind of special way you put a submission together. And I said, what's a CSW? And he said, look it up in volume 0, right? He's being a real dick. And I was just about to knock his ass out of his chair. And I thought, I'm not going to get kicked out of here the first week for freaking $2. I don't care if I ever get paid. I'm not even going to stand in a line for $2. You got to be kidding me, right? So I just blew it off. But now that I had worked there and done well for a while, and they wanted me to do this actual post, they want to put me on a post. I said, listen, guys, you want me to do the post, you need to give me every Saturday off, no matter what, not statistics, not anything. I get every freaking Saturday off because I'm going to go out and get some work so I can make some extra money, because I ain't staying here for $2 a week, right? So they were like, no, nobody gets allowed to do that. But I said, well, it's real simple. I get that, or I'm going to go out the door and start hitchhiking, right? So they said, they approved it. They said, yeah, you get every Saturday off, because the Sea Org member is supposed to get every Saturday off, every other Saturday off if their statistics are up. But in actual fact, they almost never get a day off these days. That's for sure. But anyway, so yeah, they approved it. So I got a job selling snow cones down at on the beach, and I sold them for 50 cents. And I got 10 cents for every one I sold. And I was selling them around usually between 700 and 1,000 of them on a given day. So I was making 70 to 100 bucks, which was fine with me. And yeah, so I had that job, and that was going along fine. And then they wanted to know, I got called into this room, and they want to know, do I want to go work with L. Ron Hubbard? And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I'm not even really a Scientologist. I mean, I knew nothing really about Scientology, hardly at all. I read some basic policies and, dinked around with a couple of books and stuff like that. But like, you want me to go work with L. Ron Hubbard? I said, I literally said, what does he need? Somebody to rake his leaves? I said, why are you guys coming to me, right? And they said, no, they're going to be doing some work up there, construction work and stuff like that. And they're looking for a crew. And I said, all right. I thought it sounded like it's going to be a hot place, but, I had already proven to myself I could do things I didn't think I can do. So I was like, all right, good. I'll take the leap. I said, yeah, I'll go. So they were like, okay, you can't say anything to anybody. You can't look funky. You just write up what you do for your job, how you do your job, leave your keys in the top drawer, and be on such and such a corner of Los Angeles at such and such a time tomorrow, right? So I'm like, okay. So I do that. And I go to the corner in Los Angeles. I'm there on time. Nobody comes to pick me up. I'm like, are you guys freaking kidding me again? You guys are such idiots. I'm here. You haven't picked me up. I've now turned everything over behind me, and I've disappeared from my job. So I sneak back in and I go see the person that had told me that I was supposed to go there. And I say, hey, nobody showed up. And he said, oh, I'm sorry about that. Go do the same thing tomorrow, but in the meantime, you got to go lose yourself somewhere, because you can't be telling anybody that you're going, what they called it, over the rainbow. It was called like going to where L. Ron Hubbard is, but nobody knew if it was in this country or whatever. Mm. So I go to one of the local colleges. I was reading the book, and I slept on the little, the little chair, not the chair, but the little seat you have when you watch a football game or whatever up there. Mm. So I go I go there the next day, and so a van picks me up. They're doing all kinds of changing vehicles and checking electronically to make sure there's no bugs, and they're going through this whole rigmarole. And I wind up where Hubbard's base was at that time, which was in Palm Springs, in California. And right away, you need to get also known as an AKA. You can't be using your name. You can't be saying any Scientology words outside. So that's when myself and my friend who had worked with, and he was a roommate, and we had joined about the same time. My friend Marty Rothman, who was Mark Rothman by the legal name, and I'm Mat Pesch, and we were together at the same time. And they said, you guys need to come up with names. And Marty said, okay, I'll be Marty, and he changed it to Rathburn. you know, I had to make it similar to your name and all that. So I changed mine from Mark to Matt, and I just decided to make it with one T. And then Pesch, I made it to Peach, which is just changed the S to an A. So I was, for my 5 years up lines, I was known as Mat Pesch. And then when I left there and I went back to Los Angeles, I had people saying, "Hey, whatever happened to your brother Mark?" And I got caught in the middle with two different friggin' names. So it was weird. Anyway, so I decided just to keep the last name as Pesch and keep the first name as Matt. And that's kind of how that whole thing went down.
There it is. There it is. A legend is born. Well, legend was born before that, but gotcha. Excellent. Thank you for that. That you know, I think some people probably knew part of that story, but that clears that up as well. So let's take a quick pause here for a second. I just want to remind everybody this program is being broadcast on both Queen Bee SP on Amy and Matt's channel, and it's also being broadcast on my channel at Denver Steveo. If you've subscribed to one, please swing on over and subscribe to the other. If you've liked the program thus far on one, swing on over and like on the other as well. We just want to make sure that, well, if you don't know the story, it's a nice warm feeling to get a like for sure. But more specifically than that, YouTube likes those likes. And every time a like is clicked, it gets the algorithm, whatever that means. It gets the algorithm moving and thinking. And then those who watch programs similar to ours are introduced in their suggested viewings to shows like ours. So it gets the word out there. It gets more people seeing the programs, or at least seeing that the programs exist, and then hopefully more click on those programs as well. So swing on over to both of our channels, like, subscribe, and get that word out. So I'm going to hit a couple of our starred questions, and then we're gonna
Sure.
talk for a few minutes. Then let's talk for a few minutes about kind of the post Scientology end of this as well. So
whatever they want to know, whatever they have a question, I'll answer it.
Absolutely. So here's Veronica Bombria, Matt, 51-year-old Long Islander here. Did you ever get into the Long Island music scene? Good Rats, Zebra, Twisted Sister, etc.
Nope, I never did. You know, I was kind of unusual in that I didn't follow any professional sports. I never bought music, never played music. You know, I just didn't follow. I never didn't follow music really. When I went to the clubs and stuff, I wasn't there for the music. Usually, it was just the drink and have a party. You know.
Absolutely. Deviant Outcast. What the heck kind of drug was that?
I don't know.
It sounds like
I really don't.
Yeah, it sounds like a hallucinogen of some sort, but it doesn't match any I've heard about. Gotcha.
Same here. I really don't know.
So yeah, no, we but if you ever find it.
If I ever find it, I'll bury it because
yeah, it's,
you know, I think it hurt some other people too, because I know some other people had committed suicide in the neighborhood around that time, kids. And I thought to myself, I didn't think of it till later, but I thought, you know what? They may have gotten hold of this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Got you there. Love It says, sounds like a low-level mushroom or peyote.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I never did either one of those. So I don't know.
Let's see. True story. All of the Sea Org dudes seem to have the name Mark. Yeah. Do they just recruit Marks?
I don't know. It is strange. I mean, there's so many Marks that it's ridiculous, actually.
Right. Yeah, very funny. And then Tim Greengrass says, cigs cost a lot now. How do they manage it? Oh, that's a good question. How do they manage it? The smoking. I knew Scientologist that claimed that there was an ex-corporate executive, that he was an ex-corporate executive, but ate at soup kitchen and notified the I'm getting a blur here, and rolled the cheapest tobacco available, solid Lucy's too. So I guess the question is, how do they manage buying cigarettes today when packs are god awful expensive? And in the old days,
they were expensive then too. But to tell you the truth, most of the Sea Org members back then were rolling their own cigarettes. And then the RPFers, the guys that were like below staff, they were in the Rehabilitation Project Force, which is basically the almost like a prison camp for the Sea Org. Those guys, they would pick up the cigarettes from ashtrays from the parking lots, and they would carry plastic bags, and they would stick those cigarettes, partly smoked cigarettes, into their plastic bag, and they were called refries. And these guys were smoking that stuff back then. Yeah, nasty.
I remember as a 20-year-old just smoking and not rolling, but smoking. I would always save, when I couldn't finish a cigarette, would always save that half, just because it's a good point. They were expensive then. They just happen to be a lot more now with all the taxes. But it's been a while. So Matt M with one T says Matt with one T, smart guy.
Yeah, I didn't need the way I looked at it was the other T isn't doing anything, so you can just skip that.
Yeah. I love that. That's great. And then I love this one. Gotta post this one from Katura. This one was a good one, and then there's another good one. Matt, were you getting any auditing at this point?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Wow.
I mean, I wouldn't get any auditing for 8 years, maybe, except for getting a little interrogation before I went up to the international base. But otherwise, no, I didn't get any auditing. I mean, I was so happy to go to the RPF when I got sent to the RPF, because now I was going to get a chance to get some auditing and learn how to audit, see if this stuff works. Otherwise, no, you're just working.
Okay. Miranda could literally listen to you tell stories all day.
Well, thank you. You're gonna love my book, because I'm just bit and piece in this thing. But when you read the whole damn thing together, it's pretty intense.
I think Miranda would be excited for an audio version of the book. Will you be recording your own?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. And then, before I knock myself out, thanks to this trackball, Amy says, I never know what to call him because my family knows him as Matt and his family knows him as Mark. I usually say this guy.
Yeah. And I get confused sometimes, like what people am I with right now? Am I supposed to use my legal name? Should I use the name Amy calls me? Like, it's a little confusing, actually.
Did you ever get somebody says one of the names and you go, oh, are they talking to me?
Absolutely.
Love it. Thanks for that, Amy. Okay, so at this point, let me hide that off the screen there. So at this point, fast forward to the tail end of your Scientology career. What got you into the point where you said, you know what? Enough's a damn enough. Why am I doing this? What the F am I doing here?
I don't think most people just turn on a dime. Like they just wake up one day and like, what, it's a process. It's a process. Different things happen and it kind of builds up. And, most people try to route out at least once or twice before they ever get out of there. I did. And it's common. And there's all kinds of obstacles put in the way for you to get out. You say you want to go and they say, okay. And they isolate you. In my case, wind up in a place at the Hacienda Garden apartment complex that's called Pig's Birthing. It's a room that's been, it's been flooded. It's got no carpet. It's got mold. It's missing a glass door. It's nasty. And they got some crap mattress laying on the ground. and that's you're supposed to stay there.
Yeah.
And then the food gets brought out in some kind of a pan that's left over from the crew, and it's stuck out on some table by the the pool area in the middle of the property.
Mm.
If it gets brought out at all. So it's like doing everything possible to make it so to break you down, basically. And then the real problem was because I was like a higher what they call like I had already reached the OT levels. I would need a special kind of auditor to give me the interrogations I needed to leave. But those higher level auditors are worth a lot of money to the organization, and they weren't being allowed to utilize them for staff members. So then, okay, so now what do I do? If you can't provide an auditor for me, then how's this supposed to work out? And if I just take off, I'm going to get declared a suppressive person, but I got family in Scientology, and I don't want to be, throw that into the whole works and lose my family and blah, blah, blah. So it takes a couple of times. They break you down. You decide you're going to go back, stay, and then things build up. Some of the stuff that built up for me, the carrot was always did the OT levels work? Well, I did all the way through OT7, and I can tell you they don't work. They're a bunch of bullshit, right? I didn't feel any different. Nothing happened. It was like, come on, man. So that was done. I had done pretty much every course you could do, just about. I had trained as an auditor. I could audit people to the highest level, except for rundowns I had called, the class 12. The L rundowns, but everything before that, I had audited other people. I knew how to audit people. It wasn't impressing to me. It wasn't impressive. And the other thing that was happening was it got announced one day at the staff meeting, and this was coming from David Miscavige's staff, that there would be no more special schedules. Like old people, sick people, these kind of people could go on a reduced schedule. They would still be helping out, but they would still be provided with their room and food and all that stuff. They were on a special schedule, it's called. Well, somebody got the idea that they were going to just cancel that one day. And they got announced at the staff meeting, the weekly staff meeting at the end of the week, there would be no more special schedules. Well, shit, I've already been in like 20 something years. I'm in my 40s. And I'm like, so when I can't do 80 hours a week, I'm just supposed to walk out of this place and suck it up. I was like looking around, and most of the people at these staff meetings, they're like so tired. And most of these guys don't even understand how the organization works. A lot of them they just know their area, their little bubble within the big old, corporation there. And I'm like, don't these guys get it? Don't they understand the significance of what this person is announcing? I didn't really get that. Too many people there did. But to me, I was like, okay, that's I need to get out of here while I'm still healthy enough to go put a future here for myself. So that was a key point. And yeah, those are the main things. They built up to the point where I just knew I just had to get out of there. And when I had the opportunity to go to the RPF again, I was like, yeah, send me to the RPF, because the RPF has its own people that can deliver the interrogations that you need to get out of there. So I thought, that's my way out. I'll go into the RPF. I'll wait a few days. I'll tell them, I want to leave. They'll use some of their own staff, because the RPF they don't get used to make money for the organization, and they'll do the interrogation. I'll get out of here. So I'm there the second day. Of course, the person that's over the RPF comes in. There's 70 of us, and he's got some big announcement he wants to tell everybody. And he's like, we're going to make the person that within the RPF that's over the RPFers is called the bosun. It's like, I'm going to put a new bosun on, the post. And this person, he's like, can do this and that, blah, 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 all these things. And I'm thinking, is he talking about me? And then he's like, and this person has military background. I'm like, it's not me, because I never been in the military. But then all of a sudden he says, and let's give a welcome to Mat Pesch. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? My second day in here. These guys have been in as an average of 7 years. Those guys, 7-year average of the people that were in that RPF. And
wow.
I mean, you got to realize these people, even if their kids and their wife or husband lives in the next apartment building over for the last 7 years, they never got to see them. They never got to hold them, touch them, nothing. Zero. These people are totally segregated. Any communication to them comes in writing. It gets side-checked to be allowed to be passed to them, which means it has no real information in it. Any information out gets side-checked. It can't have any information in it. And they have to run every place they go. They eat the shittiest food. They sleep in overcrowded dorms. They have security guards outside their building, outside their the complex itself is fenced in. You got a guard roving. You got a guard at the booth. You shake that fence, spotlights go off, alarms go off, people chase you down. You know, it's not a freaking joke, man. And these people are they have less rights. They have no access to TV, radio, magazine, newspaper, nothing. These people are completely shut off from the world. And that's worse, way worse than if they had committed a friggin' major crime. You know, they could have robbed the store with a gun and had less time and had more rights. They're in there under these circumstances. Some of these people wound up being in there for 13 freaking years. I mean, the only reason I got out is because me and Amy, after we got out of the Sea Org, flapped it so hard that they had to let out these guys that were in there for like 12, 13 years because we made such a situation out of it. But no, they were just keeping these people in forever as slaves, basically. And yeah, anyway, so I was like, I was so done, man. I was like, yeah. I had to basically like lay the law down and get out of there.
I was gonna say, so how did you finally get out?
Well, me and Amy they call twins. Two people get put together and you're supposed to get each other through the program, right?
Okay.
So I got asked, do you know Amy? Yeah, I know Amy. We've been friends since 1983. You know, we worked together. And she's OT7, you're OT7, so we want to make you guys twins. Okay, good.
Okay.
Well, Amy's there, but there's no way she's ever going to get off that RPF. There's already a suppressive person declare on hold in her folder because she's witnessed David Miscavige beating the crap out of people repetitively. And I mean choking, kicking, punching, you know, and then even taken to another level where people are tied to a friggin' chair, slapped with a fly swatter till the face swells up, put underneath, you know, the air conditioning unit while they're getting water poured over them so that they go into hypothermia. I mean, we're talking friggin' torture. And she's witnessed that kind of stuff.
Right.
And they don't want her on the outside to speak about it. So she ain't going to get out of there. We both know she ain't going to get out of there. We both know we don't want to be there. So I said to her, all right, let's get out of here. I wanted to just walk down and say, let's get out of here. And she was, you know, it's hard to do that when you've been in there for over 25 years. These are your friends. You feel like you're doing something bad. You're letting everybody down. You got all these things that have been built into your brain, you know, that the only reason somebody wants to leave the group is because they've done bad things. You know, only a degraded being would want to leave the Sea Org. I mean, there's all these things that have been put in place. Besides the fact that because we both worked at the international base, Hubbard had written that anybody who doesn't make it from the international base is supposed to get declared a suppressive person. Well, it doesn't get done all the time, but that's still there. And so we both kind of figured we're going to get declared no matter what. When we get out of here, we're going to lose our families because she had family in Scientology, so did I. But I said, okay, you know, we're going to get out of here. And she agreed, we're going to get out of here. But she wanted to do it in such a way that it was more, she was trying to get them to kick her out. She said she had a fitness board meeting coming up. They were going to like hold a fitness board on all the RPFers one by one, and to see if you qualify to even stay in the Sea Org. So she said she was going to say, you know, how, you know, she didn't really qualify for the Sea Org or whatever, and hope they would kick her out. And the more she would say that she didn't qualify, the more they thought it was a good indicator that she really did qualify, right? And made it even more qualified. So she comes back and she tells me that. I said, okay, that's it. I said, that was your plan. We're going to plan B now. My plan is we're going to just get out of here. We're just going to tell them we're going to get out of here. So we walk down and we say, yeah, you know, we want to leave. We get separated. We put under guard, individual, you know, all the steps of the guard stuff. They start to give me my interrogations. I can tell after it's going on for like 6 weeks. I can tell that they're never going to let me out. This is just a stall. The way they were asking the questions, the whole thing was being run was going to go on forever. There was never going to be any point of it. And so I just had enough. And I took the cans. They were recording it, and the interrogation recordings were sent to David Miscavige's staff when we finished each day.
Okay.
And I just took the cans and I threw them down, and I said, "That's the fuck it." I said, "That's it." I said, "I'm done." I said, "I'm out of here." I said, "If Amy and I aren't out of here by by noon tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to walk out of here with her. You don't have a gate. You don't have a fence. You don't have a security guard that can stop me." I said, "If you want to stop me, you're going to have to shoot me in the fucking head." And I got up and I walked out of there. And that's what I mean. I put the law down. I wasn't playing. Like, playtime was over, and they knew it. And long story short, we were out of there before noon the next day.
Wow. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So quick. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, very nice. Very nice. Okay. And then what happens? So, I mean, and let me ask the question a little bit better than, and then what happens? Cause it's a little vague. So you guys are out of there before noon the next day. And, I know is that when you ended up in Seattle? Or how did that part of the story go?
They take her to the airport. You get $500 severance pay when you leave after 27 years, and
thanks.
Like, woohoo! Yeah. But you don't get this. You don't really actually get that money. What happens is they take that $500 and they buy whatever transport is needed to get you the heck out of as far away as they can. Right?
Okay.
After they make you sign all kinds of paperwork, while videoed, notarized, all this stuff that you will never come back to Clearwater. You will never talk to anybody that's not a Scientologist, but that you met through Scientology, any of the, the vendors and things like that. You sign a paper that they put this whole thing together about you've been like just a complete piece of shit your whole freaking career. You never produced anything, and that you're there on your own determinism, that you really loved it. And you sign all this stuff. You got to sign it because all you want is just the thing to end. You want to get out of there, and you'll just sort the rest out. Of course, I'm coming back to Clearwater. My freaking sisters live there. It's like,
right.
And plus, you're not going to tell. It's just stupid. But anyway, I signed all the crap. They put Amy on a plane. They send it to Seattle. It takes almost all that $500. She's got a little change left over. Before she's going to go return home after over 25 years to her family, out of the blue. She doesn't want to look like she just came out of a prison camp, which she did. So she has to stop and get her hair cut and stuff like that, which she does, which takes up the last little bits of money she had left over after the plane ticket. They put me on a Greyhound bus to my parents' place, which is in Florida, about 25 miles from the Fort Harrison in Clearwater. Big surprise. I'm there at the Greyhound bus station. I call my parents. I said, "Hey, can you pick me up? I'm at the Greyhound bus station." I said, "I'm out of the sewer." They go, they were never in Scientology. They said, "You're out?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm out." They go, "Out?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm out." And they were like, so they came and got me. Long story short, me and Amy, actually, I still wasn't sure Amy was really out of the hacienda. And I asked my dad, who was, not somebody to play games with. He didn't like Scientology, and he had already been, spent time in Okinawa and all those places in the Pacific fighting the nastiest battles imaginable. And he's a really nice guy, but he could be a really bad guy if he wants to be. And I said, "Dad, can you drive me to the Hacienda Gardens? I think the girl I'm trying to leave with, named Amy, is still held in there, and we may need to break her out." And he says, "Whatever you want to do." He's like, "Yeah, let's go do it." So I'm like, luckily, she was able to make contact by phone with me within a couple hours of me being out of there. Otherwise, there would have been a real problem at the Scientology place the next day. So my dad, obviously was going to drive me there. I bought a plane ticket once I knew Amy was in Seattle. The next day I flew to Seattle, and we stayed at her dad's house. Okay. He had a guest room, and the very first day we took a bus into Seattle to get a marriage certificate so we can get married. They said you got to wait like a week or something, like a few days before you can get it. They put you a little cooling off period, Sure. And the earliest day was going to be March 13th, which is L. Ron Hubbard's birthday. And we kind of laughed. It was just ironic.
That's right.
And, but we thought, we're never going to forget what day we got married because it's March 13th. And we wound up having a real simple ceremony in her dad's backyard with a couple of relatives. And it was a beautiful day. We went to the Yellow Pages, hired some guy to come and be the minister. And the dad bought a nice little chocolate cake. It was a great little deal. And then we got a little job, one of these places you walk in and they'll just set you up with work right away. We did that. We were doing great. Get some paychecks, got an apartment. And then we figured out a whole business we could run ourselves. And we started making a bunch of money right away. We were making real good money.
Nice.
And things took off from there.
Fantastic. And then, so you're there for how many years are you in the Seattle area?
Let's see. We were, I don't know. I'm just estimate probably was maybe 5 years, something like that.
Okay.
We were renting a house at one point with a big shop, and I had a big box truck, and I was going to 3 different auctions a week. And each auction, I would fill the box truck up with household furniture, and I'd bring it back to the shop, fix it up a little bit, whatever's needed, take a picture of it, do a write-up, give it to Amy. She would post it. The people would either pick it up at our place or I would deliver it. Amy gave me a delivery route. I would drop off all this furniture. Sure. But what happened was the house we were renting, we weren't dealing with the guy himself. We were dealing through like a management company on the rental. Yeah. And one day the banker shows up, somebody from the bank shows up and says, hey, hate to go direct to you guys, but we can't find the guy who owns this place, because what happened was at the top of the housing market, people were buying houses. And then as the market was going up, they were making profit on it. But then when the market crashed in 2008, these people were holding on to property that wasn't, worth holding on to. And and they just kind of run off of whatever money they had gotten out of that house so far. And that's what that house was about. So we had like 1 week, we were supposed to like have the whole place cleaned out, which we did, all our equipment, all our furniture, all our personal stuff. We got it all down to what would fit in one SUV that we owned. And we decided to head on off to Florida. And mainly because Amy at that time was having trouble getting, she was having trouble with her body, having trouble getting warm, these kind of things. And so I thought, well, if you're having trouble getting warm, let's start off in Florida. Plus I have family there. And so we went there. It got interesting. I mean, we went into one of these places in Florida, like walk-in clinics. You can imagine what walks in for free in those walk-in clinics in Florida. We went in there and they did a blood test for Amy. And the guy said it was the worst results he had ever seen. He said, you don't change something quick, you're not going to be alive. Because she was having trouble. Like, she didn't know what was going on, but she was swelling up. She couldn't get warm. She couldn't lift her arms above her head. She couldn't tap her foot to mute. I mean, her body was like shutting down. And so they found out what it was. And she has a prescription that she has to take, thyroid, whatever it is. Anyway, she's got a prescription. She got healthy from there. We switched things up. But yeah, that's kind of how we wound up in Florida. And of course, Scientology freaked the frig out, man, that we, not only did we move back to Florida, but we were going to be more central to start doing some furniture flipping again, but we didn't like the auctions that they had there. And the auction that we did like was close to Clearwater. So we wound up renting an apartment out on Clearwater Beach, which was great, right on the water. It was great for us.
Oh, yeah.
Scientology did not like it. And they weren't crazy. We had a whole team of private investigators that overtly harassed us day and night. And if we took a trip back to Seattle to visit family, they took the trip back to Seattle. Wow. It was intense. But anyway, that'll all be in the book.
Is that has that tapered, or are you guys still?
The last time they were really strong about it was we were outside Seattle. And they had this guy had this PI came, and he was sitting out in front of our house, and there was a bus stop there where the little kids would get on the school bus, like the elementary school age.
Sure.
So I went out there and I said, hey man, I said, I see you eyeballing these kids, I said, I know you're not from the neighborhood, and it's not okay that you're out here waiting for these little kids, So he's like, I'm not here for the kids. And I said, yeah, I know. Yeah, right. So he goes, I'm married, right? I go, yeah, that's even worse, right? So I got on, I had the cell phone, and I called the police, and I gave his license plate number. And I said, hey, I got some guy that doesn't belong in the neighborhood, and he's out here every day watching these little kids. Guy freaked out. He drove off. He got out of there. But the next day, a different PI comes back, right? So they've switched out this guy because he doesn't want to be part of this. I don't know what his thing was, but he didn't want to be part of it anymore. They gave a new PI to sit outside the house. So I said, okay. I was like, that's it. I walked out there and I said, can you pass on a message? He said, pass on a message to who? Yeah. I said, yeah, you know who. I said, tell them if you're still sitting here an hour from now, that I'm chilling out here and I'm moving back to Clearwater. And I said, last time I was there, I was nice. I said, I didn't cause any trouble. I said, it's going to be totally different this time. I said, you let them know that. That's the last time I had a PI sit in front of my house. He was gone. They had done such an effort to get me to move away from the base that they didn't want to cause me to move back to the base. We wound up moving back to the base anyway. They had tough luck, but it wasn't intentional. It was just the way it was.
Oh, wow. And just a reminder to everybody, if you've got any questions or comments for Matt, please post them. If you don't mind, throw the word comment or question in front of them. And our wonderful starring Maven in the back will catch them and get those starred. Also, super chats. Just saying. So, just saying. So there. So you've been back now, or you've been back, right? Where is back? You've been in Clearwater now for what, about 4 years? 3 years? How long?
Yeah, the last time we came here
47
was about 3 years ago. Because what happened was my dad passed at 95 years old, and my mom was about 90, and her health obviously wasn't great, and she didn't want to wind up in some kind of facility. She didn't want to die in some hospital, this kind of thing. And we talked on the phone, and I said, okay. I talked to Amy. I said, hey, why don't we just sell our house? We'll move in with my mom, and help her out to the end of her life. And that's what we did. We sold the house right away. Within a couple of weeks, we were with my mom. We stayed with her for 9 months through thick and thin. Amy was a real trooper taking care of my mom. And my mom finally passed in her own bed, and we were done. So then we were like, okay, well, now what do we want to do? We can go any place. And we decided that we wanted to stay in Florida. So we bought a house about 20 miles from downtown Clearwater, a nice area. And
we know the public side of what you guys have been doing since then, but has that, I guess I don't want to dive too deep in. I don't want to ask too much that's going to be exclusive to the book. And but so you've been back, you've been public about Scientology.
Amy put out a book, Scientology Abuse at the Top. She wrote that when we were in at Clearwater Beach. Yeah. And we were part of that whole thing with the St. Pete Times, Truth Revealed, that whole thing. And they were putting out all those articles that were winding up on the cover of the Sunday newspaper, Tampa Bay Times. One day I had gotten there was a message came in on the computer, and Amy read it to me. I said, that's either Marty Rathbun or somebody pretending to be Marty Rathbun. And Marty Rathbun was supposed to be dead. There was literally a death certificate available that was on the computer for Marty Rathbun.
Oh.
And I said, okay, listen, ask this person these questions that only Marty and me would know. Like, how do we get back from Mexico? What were we drinking? These kind of questions. And so he answered them all right away. They were all correct. It was obviously Marty. So I said, okay, good. We bought a ticket. And like one day later, we were at his place down in Texas. And I told Amy, I said, I don't know if he's going to even want to talk about Scientology. I said, so just we'll just play it real easy, you know. Let's see what's up here.
Right.
And so we rented his place right next to where he was living. And in the morning, he calls, he's all excited, you know, he's awake, and we go over there. All he wants to talk about is Scientology. He hasn't been able to talk to a Scientologist for like whatever, a year or two or something. And he's just, you know, just laying it all out. We just had a great time. We had a great time. We went fishing every day. And we stayed there for about a week or something. We were playing board games, barbecuing. You know, it was fun. And Marty, you know, as he was learning that I was cut off from my brother, and the whole disconnection routine and stuff like that, it kind of got to him, you know, and he really felt that he wanted to speak out and do something about this whole disconnection thing. And that's really when he kind of stepped out publicly, and he's the one that arranged the interviews with the St. Pete Times and all that stuff. And he even said to us, you guys can be involved if you want. He said, if you don't want to be involved with it, it's fine too. I could totally understand that. And we were like, no, well, you know, we'll be involved. And so Amy was doing those interviews, and we were helping the guys that were writing the articles at the St. Pete Times, which became the Tampa Bay Times.
Yeah.
They had so many kind of strings and reaches for people who wanted to speak out, but they weren't sure who was what and what was fake and what was a good story. And so we obviously knew all of that, and we said, okay, you know, we were literally sitting for breakfast at a restaurant with them, and we say, this person, this person, this person, these are the people you want to contact for your stories. So they would contact them, and, you know, and they would call back and say, well, this person doesn't want to talk, you know, because, you know, and you understand, you get out and you're just trying to restart your life. You don't really want to wake up the big, you know, tiger in the room and put them back on you and stuff like that. You're just trying to get on with your life. But anyway, I said, okay, give me a minute. I'd call him, you know, like Don Jason with his Man Overboard article that he did, how he escaped from the free winds. And I talked to Don. We're good friends. And I got his agreement. He said, okay, despite everything, he'll put his neck out. He'll get the article out. It's important enough. I'd call back the St. Pete Times. I tell him, call Don. He's ready to go. And then that would happen. It would happen with the next person. So he was helping to set up the reporters with the correct people and the correct stories that they really needed to get put out publicly. And then Amy was going on, she went to Anderson Cooper show. She was on radio shows. She was doing radio with major shows from Canada. She flew over to Europe. She was, you know, with Mark Hedley and some others that were speaking out at some kind of conference there that Germany was putting on about Scientology.
That's right.
There was all kinds of people from other countries, from Europe, that were there representing their countries, their police departments, their kind of things. And they wanted to speak to Amy and the others and, you know, find out what the deal was. Hungary was a key one, some other Eastern European countries. They knew the history of Scientology, and they weren't really happy about it taking root in their country and causing more damage to their people. And so Amy was there, and Mark Hedley and a bunch of other guys were there to answer those kind of questions. And I don't know. So it's you know, I've had phone calls where the IRS, the FBI, and Homeland Security were all on the line together to ask me questions about the finances of Scientology and various different information things that I had. So we were always open to give the help. You know, Amy and I each spent a day with the FBI. It was all recorded, answered all their questions, gave them all kinds of information. A lot of the other guys had the same thing. You know, what happened was when guys were speaking out and saying David Miscavige was doing all these beatings, well, somebody had the bright idea in Scientology to put together affidavits from senior executives at the international base saying it wasn't David Miscavige, it was the person speaking out who was doing the beatings, you know. And they would give all this information, like under penalty of, you know, perjury, that they had witnessed these people choke, beat, do this, thought they was going to kill the guy, you know, take 5 guys to pull him off, blah blah blah. And they put all these affidavits together, and it was like, I said, holy crap, what else do you need? What else do you need as evidence that there's a situation at the international level of Scientology that needs outside intervention.
Yeah.
You know, if they could handle it themselves, they would have handled it themselves. Obviously, this is something that's routine there because these are the top guys and they're not doing anything about it and they're participating in it. So I said, just pack that whole damn thing up and send it over to the FBI, which we did, which helped get that whole investigation from the FBI launched. So anyway, we've done all kinds of stuff to try to get this stuff exposed. And then,
Wow.
Amy, the Scientology in the Aftermath show with Leah Remini, that was the pilot for that was done at our house in Seattle. And Amy's story with her mom was episode 1, season 1.
Yeah.
So that kind of helped launch that. And both of us were on other episodes over the 3 years that show was running. So
I remember. I remember.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I'm just talking over. Go right ahead.
Yeah. No, it's cool. What are you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, I remember you being in later in the season with Mike and Leah kind of talking I think you were talking the finances, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Yeah, there was one show. Yeah, it was about the finances.
That's right. No, I do remember that. So, and then we're here. Yeah. So, what do you say? Aside from getting behind the camera on some live streams and some recordings, what you just kicking back fishing? What's Matt do? No, I don't believe that. What else are you doing? What else you got going on here? You've always been a mover, a shaker, and a guy who likes to get around. So,
well, I pick up odd jobs, doing carpet laying, painting, all these kind of things, like I've always done. But mostly it's for people I know and stuff. Okay. I also work for Mark Headley's company, Mode Systems. We go and do the audiovisual for Challenger Space and Education Centers. There's like over 40 of them now in the United States.
That many? Okay, wow.
Also, different museums. We've done a few museums. Right. And the work is you'll work for a few weeks, then you have some time off. Could be weeks, could be a couple of months, whatever. And during that time, I've mainly been doing driving Uber, because it allows me, it's the kind of work you can start and stop. It also makes me feel like I don't have to answer to anybody. I can just my own schedule. I work whenever I want. Right. So I feel retired. I mean, we don't have any house payment. We paid cash for our house. Beautiful. We got plenty of money stashed away, and life is good. Life is good.
And really quick, back to the Challenger Education Museum things. Just for anybody that doesn't know, tell us how those are kind of linked to the family.
It's they're linked, but it wasn't like intentional. Funny enough, I mean, Amy's uncle was Dick Scobie, the commander of the Challenger space shuttle that blew up with the teacher on it. Yep, that's her dad's brother. Yep. And his wife June has worked with NASA to set up these space and education centers. And the original Challenger was there with the teacher on it to help get kids interested in science and space and all that stuff. So his wife wanted to continue that and have a way to get kids interested in science and space. And these Challenger Space and Education Centers was the answer to that. And they're big, they're sophisticated. Kids go in there, they get a briefing room, they get a transport room, they get a launch room, all these, mission control. So they move around. It's computers. It's a lot of visual, sound. It's exciting. They're really nice. And a lot of school trips go there. And so Mark's company, he got the contract to put the audiovisual in for the Challenger Space and Education Centers. It just happens to be that, Amy's family's tied into that. So they really like that also, because we would go to these jobs and people would be like, see Amy and go, oh, like you're actually, Dick Scobie's niece, and it was just a real good door opened on that. And it's been fun. Even all the museums have been fun. Working with the guys is always fun. I love working with a crew, and the guys are good. And it's just been fun. It's not like work. It's really like paid vacations. That's how we look at it. Because Amy goes on a lot of them too with me. So yeah, it's
very
fun.
Cool. Very cool. I come from a generation that will never forget January 28th, 1986.
86, yeah.
Yeah, that was I was my story, and then we'll get to the questions. I was in choir. My teacher came down and to pick us up and said, just have to tell you all and explain to us. And we went back up into the classroom, and I spent the rest of the day staring in front of like a 19-inch television set, watching in the library, watching the news, watching the reruns. So there was no school that day. We were all in school, but I don't think anybody tried to teach anything to anybody. So that was a sad day. So yes, that's a great memorial symbol, something to be done in the honor of the teacher, of Krista McAuliffe and of Dick Scobie and that entire crew. And just kind of it's just kind of a cool link there to that story. So so anyway, thank you. Thank you very much, Matt. That brings us to today. I mean, there's always more happening, I'm sure, but let's see what these questions are, since I know we're about at the 2-hour mark here, and I don't want to hold you up too long today. We've got a great question from Pamela Crawford. I was wondering how your brother and sister got involved in Scientology. Is that?
Unfortunately, they kind of followed me when I got into it. Then I got curious about it, and they went and to the local mission, and they did some little courses and things like that. So that's kind of how they got their foot in the door. They kind of just curiosity following me. That's it.
All right. Katura, I did not. I am one of the never-ins, so thank you. This is a great question. Why does this rich cult, lots of money there, have such crappy accommodations? If I may, it just sounds like that's well, I don't know. I understand for people who are trying to leave, it helps, you mentioned it, break them down, kind of, but for a normal staff member, for somebody, or a normal Sea Org member who's there every day busting their butt, why such crappy accommodations?
It's just totally greed. It's really greed. The organization not only tries to suck every ounce of energy out of its staff members, it does the same to the public. It's trying to grab whatever they can get, any money, any extra work out of them, their children, whatever. It's like the black hole of greed. That's the truth of it. It just, that's what it is. It's just sucking. There's never enough. Never enough.
Did you feel that greed was a component in those early years? That day when you got when you ended up at essentially Big Blue and were living in a crappy accommodation? Did you find that to be greed or to be? I don't know.
I didn't know what to find it. Really, I didn't know what to find it. You know what I mean? I was so unaware of the overall situation, the overall scene, where this thing was, what it could do, where it led, what other organizations there were. I didn't even, like I said, I didn't even know there was flag. I didn't know there was more than one place. I didn't know nothing. I was like, literally, anybody who's watching the show knows 1,000 times more than I know when I walked in that place. And I can tell you, I still wasn't a Sea Org member 5 years later. When I went home on vacation, I hitchhiked up to Canada, up to Niagara Falls, to see a girlfriend up there that I used to hitchhike with. And when I came back, my friend who was a captain of one of the fishing boats at a Captree in Long Island, he took me out, the fish for free. And as a gift, I gave him a half an ounce of pot. You know what I mean? That was after 5 years in the Sea Org. I mean, I hadn't done any. I was still a non-Scientologist for all purposes. I had never gotten any ordering. I was a construction worker in Scientology. I just was working, mostly just building and renovating from morning to night. And so I was I wasn't even what you would call a Scientologist. I didn't know anything about anything.
So that ties into this question here from Deviant Outcast. Matt, getting into the Sea Org, not being a Scientologist, did you ever become a true believer or a believer at all? If so, what factored in? Oh, there's more there. Sorry, it scrolled off the screen. If so, what factored in? Pure mental gymnastics, slow force over time. So, first thing, were you ever a true believer?
Sure.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And then, so yeah, what factored into what got you to that
process.
point?
It's a process in, and it's a process out, and the process out is still happening to this day, to tell you the truth. And the process in, it starts with you're doing some little course, and you're supposed to, at the end of class, you're supposed to stand up and clap to L. Ron Hubbard picture, right? And at first, that thing is really weird, but after a while, you kind of get used to it. The other thing is, if you disagree with anything, you can't disagree with it if it was written by L. Ron Hubbard. It means there's something, some word you don't understand, something you don't understand, because the right answer is L. Ron Hubbard's answer. And that kind of like gets ingrained into you as you go along, right? Yeah. And then you're constantly being told that Scientology is doing all kinds of incredible stuff, right? You're in a bubble. There's any cult has, at the heart of it, is information control. And so you're not seeing the outside picture. You're not seeing what's really happening. You're just being fed information that's being fed to you through the cult itself. And what Scientologists are being told all the time is that we would be told that, the study technology was spreading through Africa like the fire across the Sahara plain, the grass plains, that organizations, big companies wanted, Scientology technology, that we were taking over mental health, that we were handling the drug abuse in different cities, that the crime that was happening in some city, Los Angeles, had, the gang wars had stopped because of Scientology passing out its stupid little way to happiness magazines. That, it just, the prisoners down in the worst prisons in Mexico have now tiptoeing through the tulips down there because of Scientology. You're getting shit like 4 times a year, all the time, like for years. So you're believing that somehow the hard work you're doing is actually changing the world, helping people. You fully believe that. And and you've been fed so much false information about L. Ron Hubbard and all these things that he's done, and you believe it. You don't think you're being lied to. You think this is your group. You think the group is like you're getting fed. This is supposed to be like a really ethical group and stuff, So you're sucking everything down and believing it. It's not until you get out that you really start peeling off, and you almost don't even want to peel. It's like painful almost. You're like, okay, so yeah, I know Miscavige was crazy, and but and then you go deeper and deeper, and then you're like, oh, should I look to see what Hubbard was about? And then you start peeling that, and you're like, oh shit, the whole thing was, and it's a whole process. It's a whole process getting in. It's a whole process coming out, and then your whole mindset that you've been geared to, which I kind of pull apart in the book. You're constantly trying to pull it out. And I can tell you, veteran Sea Org members, they go for years, decades with nightmares, and there's all kinds of key ones, but one of the most common of those nightmares is the whole process of trying to get out of there. And then you wake up and you think you have a dream that you've somehow gotten back into the Sea Org, and you're like, I told myself I'd never go back. What the hell am I doing back? You know what I mean? And you can talk to any veteran Sea Org member come out, and they've had that dream many, 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 many times. It's
sure.
It's intense. It's friggin' intense.
Ugh, I can only imagine.
Take a drink anytime Matt says oh yeah, you'd be floating.
I love it. Oh, I love that everybody has their own drinking game. I love that. Thank you, Amy. Here's a great question from OBG Foster. What advice do you have for a person starting over in life? OBG got laid off last week, not broke, but starting over. So any advice from what you've experienced, from what you've dealt with?
I think something that's really helpful if you're kind of starting off like that is to be teamed up with somebody. because you can really feel alone when you don't have anything. And if you have some kind of partnership, somebody that's working with you, there's strength in that, and that gives you more confidence, and it gives you more options to be able to build yourself up and your situation up from nothing. And that's the first thing I would say is try to find somebody trustworthy, somebody that is willing to work, that you could team up with, and that's, that will work with you thick and thin, and you guys just start it up. I always say this, opportunity ain't going to come find you. Usually you need to get your butt out and find it. You need to make yourself available, even if you start from the scratch, even if it's flipping a hamburger, get into an environment where you can then talk and meet other people, and then you can start finding those opportunities to build up from. Just sitting in your house watching TV, there ain't gonna be no opportunity coming knocking on your door. Not likely. So yeah, you gotta, that's what I would say. And just take what you can get your foot in the door, work it. If you work hard, if you're honest, you work hard, you'd be surprised. Companies look at you and go, wow, that guy has value just from the fact that you like to work, you want to work, that you're honest, that you're there on time, you come early, whatever. Those kind of things mean a lot to someone who's looking to hire people for their company, and that will help you. I mean, we got out, and the first thing we were doing was working for a box company, and we're there with staple guns, and we're putting together these boxes and all this kind of stuff. But we were happy to be there. We were happy. We were enjoying ourselves. We were working hard, and they literally brought out the head guy of the company that was watching us because it was so unusual. Because the other people that were coming in from the job service, they were like in resentment. They were dragging their ass around, and they didn't want to be there, and they thought they should just get paid because they showed up, and it was that kind of a thing. And we that wasn't our viewpoint. And right away, they wanted to make us managers, of this box company. It was a big box company. It was a major company, and we were like, yeah, no, thank you, but we had some other opportunities breaking loose at that point, which we then jumped on. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Great advice. Great advice. Duchess Diana would like to know if Matt had long hair when he was hitchhiking.
I'm going to have Amy put a picture up. I didn't have long hair, but I had, typical in the 70s, you'd have the hair that was like over your ears kind of thing. I had that kind of hair. No, I didn't have it down my back kind of stuff. No.
Love it. No, I was going to ask another hair question, but I will avoid the hair questions. There's a reason for this hat. I love this. Matt never said what jobs he did inside. There's tons of stories with that, but we'll save it for his book and for other videos. Absolutely, Amy. I don't want to steal all the content, and knew that I wouldn't be able to even so. So, without a doubt,
there's so much to cover. I can never even start to chip at it in 2 hours. Believe me.
Understood. Marilyn says, loving this interview from the starring Maven in the back. There she is.
Great. Thank you.
All can't see her. I'm going to say there's a couple of questions. Glenda had a question for me. Kimberly had a question for me. There's been a few of them about me as a never in. I'm not going to address those here, partly for time, partly this is Matt's story, but if you come back to this channel at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time for this Saturday's episode of XENU Nation, I will address those questions. So thank you for asking them. But I'll talk a little bit about me as a never in and what got me here and all that. We'll do that tonight. So if you're over on Queen BSP and you haven't swung over to subscribe to @DenverSteveo yet, please come on over and do. I won't.
Yeah, we want as many channels as possible out there getting the message out, and that he's a never in, that he's doing this, I think is fantastic.
Oh,
and we need to push him along, help him along.
Thank you. So come on over. Yeah, we've got.
It doesn't cost anything to subscribe. You just click on his subscribe button, and it just helps him out.
That's right. And I promise if I ever do a show at the same time as Matt or Amy do on their channel, you can always catch it on the replay. But just to make sure you get those notifications of when those Denver Steveo shows are, come on over, subscribe, make sure that little bell thingy is saying, "Hey, I'm sending you things." Come on over. We're a warm and loving family over here. So
yeah, and the notification is just a little line across the top of your phone for like 1 second, and it disappears. It's not gonna upset your life.
Not at all. So thank you. Here's a great question from Purple Groovy 69. Love you, Purple Groovy. Haven't seen you in 10 minutes here. Matt, you've got so many stories. Your book is going to be thicker than a dictionary.
Yeah, probably.
I think my answer to that is no. It's going to be multiple books. Right?
We'll see. Amy just keeps saying, just keep writing. Just keep writing.
Just keep writing. So. Well, what is it, Janice, that has 2 already? And I think she's, I don't know if she's working on a 3rd, but you can just break the story up that way. Parallel Jen says, great interview, guys. Thank you, Parallel Jen. And last one from Love It, 2 hours has flown by. Well, Love It, I'm going to tell you, it's been 2 hours, 11 minutes, and 59 seconds now. There we go. So
it has flown by.
It absolutely has. No, it sure has. Thank you. I would love to once, and I don't know what I'm not asking, and I don't know what your time frame is. I would love to have you back after the book is out, and
for sure.
But if that's going to be a while, I'd love to have you back before the book is out, and we can explore that gap that we missed, and at least address a few of those stories there. So
sure. Yeah.
And again to the director hiding in chat, no, we will not. We will not steal the gems of the book. But I absolutely love this. This was wonderful. So Matt, thank you, and thank you to everybody that joined. I think at one point we had we were pushing 400 people live in the audience, and then we're still at over 350. So thank you to everybody that on a depending on where you're from, it may be a snowy Saturday afternoon, it may be a hot and 80s lake sailing, what was it, what were they, lake skiing, jet skiing, losing my words, jet skiing afternoon. But wherever you're from in the US and in the continental world of XENU Nation, thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon. It's been wonderful. So,
yep.
And with that, I'm gonna kick up a cool little Superman icon, and because origin stories and all, and we'll be off. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Stay safe.